A lot has happened over the past 72 hours. If you're a Sam Houston Bearcat fan, overall college football, it was just a wild, wild weekend. It was rivalry week. A lot of teams fighting for conference championships, fighting for bowl eligibility. But of course, Sam Houston has really been going through a lot. We're all here to break it down right here on Sam Houston Sports Talk. Luke Scott to me it's to my right, but on the computer screen it's it is actually to everybody's right, but it'll look like to my left. But and I'm Colin Neal as always. Luke, today just the rundown's pretty simple. It's simple today, but it's also very complicated and very breaking news. I think literally while we're recording these segments today, there's going to be breaking news potentially going on while we're recording. So any information that is said right now at 12:33 p.m. and onwards till about 1 p.m. If anything in this segment is outdated, we do apologize, but we do want to get this out as soon as possible for our great supporters out there. Luke, we just hit 200 subscribers on YouTube, and we really appreciate it from everyone that has supported us since June.
Yeah, 200 on YouTube. That's insane. Neither one of us thought that we'd get close to that there in our first year, but here we are, and um, it's taken a little bit of hard work and consistency. That's really the main key, and I think we've done a good job of that. We're approaching 700, I believe. We're at like 680 something um, on Twitter, which is great. Just huge following. It's growing every day. Both of us have been reached out to multiple times by supporters of other teams, of Sam people, just all over the place. So it's really really good to see that this is growing, and we've seen a lot of attraction to the pages just this past couple days, just because of all of this breaking news with the team
Yeah.
beating Liberty, and then the Keeler news dropping yesterday that we'll get to. But yeah, tremendous accomplishment for both of us. Mainly Colin. Colin does most of the work.
Hey man, you make it a lot easier as a great co-host and a great friend. But you heard it from Luke. Sam Houston defeating Liberty at home 20-18 to end off the regular season, and of course the Keeler news. Let's just briefly break down the Liberty win real quick because we are bringing on Huntsville Items sports editor Colton Foster to talk the Keeler news and what we can expect for the next few weeks because our good friend Ryan Humphreys, a great friend of the program, we literally talked to him the other week, and he was in the Liberty preview pod. If you want to check out that interview, it'll be linked in the description. But he said that the after Keeler's departure, that's gonna be detrimental to what the future of Sam Houston football is going to be like. But we'll get to that later. Let's first talk about the and also breaking news. Literally just as we're about to record, Sam Houston running back Jay Ducker has entered the transfer portal. So don't know if he's going to play in the bowl game or not. We'll see what happens. But either way, Luke, let's talk about the Liberty game real quick. That offense in that second quarter was really really good. I mean, you even were like, where has this offense been over the past month? It like literally shades of the first half of the year, like what we saw against Texas State, Hawaii, New Mexico State, UTEP. But and the defense was also doing its thing. I hate to, I don't want to. I'm not trying to be that person, but I called it. Jalen Jimerson legacy game. He had a tremendous game, including that insane interception that got SC top 10 at number 4 the next morning. I didn't even see that. I was too busy to watch the SC top 10 in the morning. But I saw that. I thought that was pretty cool. Simeon Evans just doing what he does best, what he's been doing all season, just being that dynamic receiver. He had 2 touchdown catches, including a couple of long yards after runs after the catch. Excuse me. Um, but yeah, overall, it got a little too close at the end. To be fair, once again, but Sam Houston able to pull out the victory 20-18. I was there on the field, and it was a great crowd on that west side. And of course, it was about 8,651 attendance officially. Not a bad night considering that school is not in session. Luke, I know you weren't able to attend, but what did you see from your television screen on your thoughts about the game?
Yeah, obviously, the offense showed up in their moments when they needed to. And you talk about the interception that Jalen Jimerson had there. Sam Houston was able to convert on that pick on the short field and be able to take advantage of the moments that they had and they were given by this defense. And um, at times it kind of looked a little nasty and it looked tough. But other moments, they looked really good. I thought that was Hunter Watson's best day throwing the ball. In a long time. We saw a more consistent effort out of him. He threw the ball into some tight areas there that got a little frisky, but um, considering of what they've looked like in the past month or so, I took whatever we got there. And Simeon Evans played a great game. Simeon Evans, you could tell that connection that they had built over this whole year, that was a great game for him. In the end zone, making some really tough adjustments in midair, um, really taking advantage of a matchup that they liked, and you could tell going into this game that was what they were trying to do. And credit to the staff, credit to the players, they executed in that general direction. Thought we ran the ball pretty good. Ducker had 96 yards on the day. Yeah, it was a very, very good effort, and I thought holding Liberty um, to really nothing. I mean, they didn't do anything really up until that fourth quarter. Colin, I thought Salter looked bad. Uh, I think they should have given the ball to Quentin Cooley more often, but Liberty just they were fighting from behind, so it's hard to give the running back that much work just because you're down in the game. And I think we beat Liberty pretty easily. I think the score isn't as close as it really was. It got close there at the end, but the defense, making a big hole or a big stop there on that 2 point conversion was huge. And yeah, I was very pleased with the day. It looked like it was a good crowd, even though it was Black Friday and school's not there at that point. But it looked like a good crowd, Colin.
Yeah, it did. And also Isaiah Cash with the interception as well. Bryson Hayes was on that was on that stop with that interception on that 2 point conversion. It seemed like Caden Salter was still very banged up from last week's matchup against Western Kentucky. He was out for a couple series to begin the second half, and it clearly the offense wasn't really getting anywhere. So they decided to hop Salter back in. I mean, he had that huge run that got the game within two at the end of the fourth quarter. But it seems a lot of Liberty fans were really upset, seemed really mad and upset that they didn't give the ball to Quentin Cooley in that situation. In that 2 point conversion, which it is very it's been a very frustrating season for Liberty. I'm sure it'd be interesting to see what happens with them because they could lose Chadwell to another to a power forward job somewhere, maybe, who knows. Caden Salter and
West Virginia.
yeah, maybe. And Caden Salter his college career is over. He played his final season, so they're going to be looking for their next QB. I mean, they have a lot of issues that they need to get taken care of roster wise. First of all, get a wide receiver. Like, my gosh, I got told by a couple of Liberty media counterparts, colleagues, that they said that they just don't have anybody at the receiver position to really go to because they lost their number one guy to Baton Rouge and C.J. Daniels, who went off against Sam Houston last year. But Luke, you said this year before we started that some of these one-score games that Sam Houston had this past season would go their way this time, and Liberty is yet another one that was a one-score. That was a one-possession game last year that went Sam Houston's way this year.
Yeah, and really, honestly, if you look at last year and you ask an honest Liberty fan, Colin, we were the better team last year in that game, and we were the better team this year. I think we outplayed Liberty, 6.5 out of the 8 quarters that playing against them. I think it was a dominant effort by this defense once again. Um, yeah,
That's
Liberty has some issues.
that secondary was huge. It seemed like everybody in that secondary made a big play. Armstead with a couple of pass breakups. David Fisher, he did get beat a couple of times, but he did just enough because sometimes
Yeah,
I did learn as I learned more about how defense works in football that there is a certain technique called tailing, I believe it's called, where DBs will intentionally stay behind the wide receiver, especially if the quarterback does not have that good of an arm. I mean, so I'm sure Fisher did what he was supposed to do. He had a couple of good plays. Iman Allen even he had a big pass breakup.
yeah.
We hadn't really seen much of Allen. I don't know if he was hurt or anything, but it's nice to see him get back into the game. He seemed like he did pretty good. Jimerson, of
Well,
course. Uh,
he's been that third guy on the outside, and I'm not including Jimerson in that because he's a slot guy. But Armstead and Fisher have been the two guys to be your corners on the perimeter, and Allen was just kind of that next guy up that we've seen quite a bit this year, and he struggled in moments, but he had a good game there. Weaver played great, of course. Cash and Jimerson both right, so yeah, it was a very complete performance by this defense. I question where Liberty can go because no one's we all know Liberty has the money. We all know Liberty has that side. It's just what are they going to do now? Especially because I think Chadwell's going. I just think he's going to leave.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there for the Flames. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy how dynamic the college football world has become, and well, Sam Houston has felt the effects. Let's get to the real stuff, Luke. It's time to talk about Casey Keeler's departure from Sam Houston to the Temple Owls. But before I do that, I just want to say it was a great way to end the regular season off with the win at home against Liberty, one of those teams that again last year could have beat, but you couldn't. But also a great way to send off seniors like Ife Ide, like Noah Smith, and Ethan Hagler, and just many others that if I just many others I can name right now. Just we're saying so long to the last batch of the national championship team.
Yeah, it's crushing in that way because these guys are legends of the team, and as Keeler would always say, they're immortal, right? In Sam Houston history, they
Yeah.
will never go away because they were part of that national championship team there in Frisco. I still remember going to that game, the rain, the delays. It was just a brutal game to be at. I mean, it was just nasty weather, and then the second half, it all kind of came together there at the end, but. Um, yeah, it's tough to see these guys go, but I mean, that's college football, and that's kind of the way it is. But um, a lot of good memories, a lot of tough moments, but finishing on this high like we have for a lot of these guys that have given a lot to this program is huge. For them, it's huge for everyone, right? Because they've seen this go full circle. They saw us dominate at the FCS. Uh, these guys won the Southland, won the WAC, then yeah, they came into the FBS. And obviously last year was last year, and then you come into this year, and yeah, there's no championship game because of Western Kentucky. Still sucks, but um, for them to come through and really really mature this season and play some of their best ball was tremendous.
Yeah, man, with them leaving and Keeler leaving, it's for sure fully an end of an era at Sam Houston, and let's go ahead and dive right into it right now. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, and if you haven't already, be sure you subscribe today to Sam Houston Sports Talk. Follow us on X and slash Twitter, Facebook. We have a Facebook page on there. Like it, follow it, and also Instagram. Of course, we prioritize Twitter and YouTube, and pretty obviously that we do. But we post content as well on Instagram and
Hey,
Facebook.
just as we're recording this, uh, Liberty all CUSA. I'm sorry, Jordan White and tackle Xavier Gray entering the transfer portal. So just like that, Liberty guys leaving too.
Yeah, there might be something going on that we're there might be rumblings of what you are probably predicting with Chadwell going to West Virginia. But yeah, be sure and also guys, be sure you share the channel. I'm sure there's probably a good amount of alumni that do and students as well that don't really know what that our channel has existed and probably wants a place to see all the Bearcat talk. So hey, be sure you be sure you share as well. We really appreciate it. Again, 200 subs. Really do appreciate the support that we are getting. Let's go ahead, Luke. Just I was it's weird because I was a bit. I'm it, Friday, Sam Houston was celebrating a huge victory against Liberty, and then Saturday, Sam Houston was literally a gust of wind away from going to the Conference USA Championship game as Western Kentucky defeated Jack State to punch that last ticket into the Conference USA Championship, and then literally 12 hours later, Sam Houston no longer has a head coach, as Casey Keeler accepted an offer, from the Temple Owls of the American Athletic Conference, and he grew up literally in an hour north of the university in Emos, Pennsylvania. Apologies if there's any Philadelphians or Pennsylvanians that are listening in. I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't know if y'all pronounce it differently, like y'all pronounce Houston up there. But either way, it's it's I don't blame Keeler at all, Luke. I don't understand why people are probably surprised about the timing of it. People are surprised about the timing, but I don't understand why people are dogging on the move a little bit. Like he's not from here. He's from up north. He's literally going back home, Luke, and he's gonna be he's gonna be with family. He just welcomed in his first grandchild not too long ago. Congratulations to Coach Keeler and his wife and the family for that. Um, it and more money. Chance to revitalize a program that was once pretty good at one point, not too long ago. Um, it's I overall, Luke. It was a really it was a I just don't think it's really you can't blame Keeler at all. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, I totally agree, and I don't think there's that much hate right now out
I,
there for Keeler.
I've seen a little bit.
I know, but I think generally, um, yeah, you can't take away anything from him. I don't like the timing. You know, I'm with you on there. I would have liked it to be after the bowl game. But who knows? Temple could have said, "Hey, either you accept this right now, or you know, we're not going to offer you. You know, we'll withdraw our offer." It could be just one of those things where he said, "Okay, this is my chance to get back home and be closer to family, while still coach and take a big job up there in the Northeast." I don't really blame him for that. But 11 years that he's been here and he's coached us to a national championship. He's brought us from the FCS to the FBS. I mean, he was there right after. I mean, growing up, not necessarily a huge Sam Houston fan, but seeing Sam Houston play on those national semifinal, the national championship games against North Dakota State, it was Willie Fritz, right? And he goes to Tulane. It's a very similar move, right? The American Conference is a good conference, and Temple that's his home, Colin. That's where he wants to be, and I don't blame him for that. He's done a tremendous job. Uh, Love what he's been able to do here. And talking to Humphreys, we didn't think this day would come for another year or so after that, but um, here we are. And the good thing is that Bobby Williams has been through this before. He understands selecting a new coach. He knows how to go through the process. He got Fritz here. He got Keeler here. So there's a good track record of being able to find the right guy uh, and to get him here and to let him do his thing. So we'll see. It's very intriguing. It's interesting. Sam Houston's, I think, is a very attractive job for a lot of coaches, young coaches to come. So we'll see. We'll see. But it's tough. to lose a coach that's had this such a good legacy and is, uh, you know, provided a huge impact in a positive way for the entire university. It's nothing short of thank you, coach.
Yeah, it's like it's like I tweeted out on my personal account earlier. Like one thing I never added was like I never had a college growing up. I liked certain college players. I was a big Colt McCoy fan when he was of course, when he was at Texas, but I didn't have a college to identify with. I was from Waco, born in Waco. I liked Baylor, but I never really grew a great I didn't really have a thing like a relationship to it. Then I decided to go to Sam Houston. I remember being at Bowers a few days when my first semester started after Sam won the national championship. Keeler speaking in front of the students, and of course we've had the opportunity to talk to him outside of press conferences. I remember we talked to him before the last Battle of Piney Woods. He
Mm-hmm.
he talked to us for like 10, 15 minutes and just and obviously I've had my critiques, especially with how the offense has been this year, but it's but nothing short of amazing what he's done here. And my I haven't said this out yet, but it'd be kind of cool to put a statue of Keeler or name the field at Bowers Keeler, be like Keeler Field at Bauer Stadium. That'd be
Yeah.
something I would love to see happen, or and all that. But all that to say is like he really made me. He was one of the main components in making me become a big Bearcat supporter, and you know it. And one thing led to another, and now we're doing this, and just the legacy left behind. 6 FCS playoff appearances, named the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year in 2016, one-time WAC and two-time Southland Coach of the Year, 2020 National Championship, conference titles in the Southland and the WAC, and getting the Bearcats to a 9-3 record in their first year after completing the FBS transition, especially after the first year in FBS at 3-9. I mean, he built a legacy here that is immortal. It's going to be taught for years to come. Like future Bearcats are gonna learn about it, and I'm glad that I got to see the last of it. And I'm just waiting to see where this next era of Bearcat football is gonna come or gonna go.
It's very interesting and funny that you brought up that moment when we talked to Keeler, because remember, and for those that are listening, at this point, Colin and I were part of the 90.5 crew. I was doing the play-by-play. Colin was doing the color, and we had Evan Elder with us too
Yeah,
at that point, um, which is fun. But we go over there, we go down to the field, and there's definitely a media section where they told the media, okay, you go over here. Colin and I basically said, "Hell with that. We're gonna go do something. We don't know if we're gonna be able to do this again. Let's just go and have some fun with this." And so we go down there, and I mean, we're right there next to the players warming up. We're talking to pretty much anyone that we just go up to, and we were like, "Well, let's just go just go to Keeler." And he was with his wife, and after he was finished, we went to go talk to Keeler, and yeah, for real, it was a good 20, what was it, 15-minute conversation, just on kind of the season and how excited we were to play SFA for that last time, and we were broadcasting. He said, "Hey, if y'all ever need anything, let me know, and I'll help you out with whatever." Um, and so it's been very cool to see it come full circle. But yeah, Colin, it is interesting to see because there's a lot of avenues Sam Houston could take. Sam Houston could go the inside route. They've already named Coach Cornelson as the interim head coach just for this bowl game here coming up that has yet to be announced.
yeah.
Um, you know, you could go Cornelson for the head coach, um, Cassidy for the head coach. I saw on Twitter today Brian Bell, old quarterback. He coached at Baylor. He's at Houston right now under Willie Fritz. See him come over to Sam Houston. That could be interesting, right? There's a plethora of different people that would be interested in this Sam Houston job.
I've heard of Phil Longo Phil Longo has been thrown out there. People remember him as being that play caller when Jeremiah Briscoe was there in that offense. How high flying and air raid offense that was, and Tim Dowse has been a name I've heard I've seen on Twitter being thrown around. There,
Johnson.
Johnson and shoot, even Josh McCown. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know Josh McCown is up in Minnesota right now. I know he wants to get a head coach gig at some point. He almost did with the Texans, probably. We're not going to talk about that. But yeah, there's just a lot of, like you said, a lot of avenues that this could go with, and we of course have saw the one of the dominoes fall with Jay Ducker entering the transfer portal. Who knows who else is going to you know enter the portal to potentially go with Keeler, and we don't know yet if any staff is going to go with Keeler yet or not. I've heard a few things, but not willing to say anything right now because it's very up to interpretation and all that. But man, it's these next few weeks are detrimental to the future of Sam Houston football, and whatever happens, I just hope it's the right. I just hope it's the best decision that Sam Houston can possibly made. You mentioned Bobby Williams and what in his experiences, Luke. Do you think Sam Houston's gonna make a slam dunk hire for the third time in a row? I mean, having back to back successful coaches is pretty uncommon. Having back to back successful head coaches, that's also much more uncommon. Do you think Sam Houston's gonna just strike good luck once again here? I mean, it's a fair question to ask, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very good question. Um, I mean, you've seen some of the premier programs in Texas, in the state, not be able to make the correct hire, two times in a row, three times in a row. I mean, before Sarkeesian at Texas, it was Tom Herman and Charlie Strong that were both, not great. Both had their moments, but both, did not turn out too well. A&M, they think they might have their guy in Elko, but Jimbo Fisher was not great. Kevin Sumlin, had his moments, not great. Sherman had his moments, not great. Their last great coach was probably Slocum, right? Um, it's interesting. It's tough to do. It's very tough to do. To go back to back coaches like that we have with Fritz and Keeler is is tremendous. And you would look at Fritz and say, "There's no way we could do better than that." We did do better than that with Keeler because we won a championship. So now you have to go to another level here, in the FBS. Really try to get an established coach. Um, it's tough because not many programs can do what Sam Houston has done, right? And now you're trying to strike oil again after you've already done it before. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough for any program to have three successful head coaches in a row. Um, I'm trying to think. Maybe Baylor. Aranda's kind of taken shape a little bit with Rule and then Art Briles. I mean, those were, that was three really good coaches there. TCU, in a way, I don't know. It's it's tough.
Yeah, the thing is
Oh,
some
Texas Tech. Texas Tech actually had some good coaches too. I
the,
mean, Kingsbury was exciting. I don't know if he was necessarily a great coach, but he was exciting with now they have McGuire, who I think is doing good, and they had Leach.
yeah. The thing is like some people are worried right now that Sam Houston football is just gonna become a meaningless G5 program, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a fair and some people say that's why they were against the move to FBS, which is fair. I don't know why people are still against the FBS move because it's really worked wonders for the brand. Like Sam Houston has become much more. has become a part of national headlines, especially this year with the comeback. Even last year, Luke, when it was a 3-9 season, people were talking about Sam Houston. People were watching Sam Houston because of what have been talking about. I mean, you gotta shout out Sickos Committee, Reddit College Football, ESPN, even some of these other outlets, and Kirk Herbstreit even shouted out Sam Houston a few days ago as well. That or as a team that should be getting more national recognition.
Hmm.
It's I'm not, and because of Sam Houston being in Texas, its location in Huntsville, Texas, being close to Dallas, Houston, College Station, and even in East Texas, um, the
Yeah,
in
Louisiana.
Louisiana, and even in stadium renovations that are coming, which we don't. I'm about 80% sure at this point we're not playing at Bowers in 2025, because of what I keep hearing, especially rumblings in the public. It seems like the public's even like thinking that they're not going to play. They're not going to play at Bowers in 2025. That we're going to get more to that in the future when official announcements are made, because maybe they'll play at Bowers like Jack State did when they played around their renovations this past season, last year. We don't know that
Hey,
yet.
Vanderbilt's been playing under renovations for like a decade now. I
Yeah,
mean,
there you
every
go.
time you look at a Vanderbilt game, that stadium is under construction.
Yeah, there's always something up. There's always something going on over there. But I don't think Sam Houston is going to be a meaningless Group 5 program. It's a realistic concern, but the culture that Sam Houston has gotten built here, like thanks to Keeler, thanks to Fritz, there's a winning culture here, and I think coaches want to continue that.
There is, and you know, I've brought it up before, Colin, but the number one team in the country right now, who is their coach?
Good old Dan Lanning.
And where did Dan Lanning coach? Right, he coached here. It wasn't for long. It wasn't for like a tremendous like decade, but he was here, right? So there is some stock into Sam Houston, um, into Bobby Williams. There is some people understand that this is a winning program. Um, and now we've seen it. And to the people that are concerned and said, we don't want to move up because of this exact scenario right here. Well, look at all the publicity that North Dakota State is getting right now. Not much. How much publicity is, Montana State, South Dakota State? What publicity do you get out of them every week? Unless you are fully ingrained into FCS ball, which some Sam Houston fans are still, because it is fun. I mean, FCS is a fun product. But if you are a casual or even just a regular college football fan that watches Division One, that's a person that went to Texas State and is a fan of Texas State and Texas, right? If those are your teams, you're not watching the FCS ball. You can watch Sam Houston because we're on national TV, because we're playing teams that you actually know. I mean, who knows about Southeastern Missouri State? Who really knows, understands who they are? Outside of the FCS people community, which is
I mean,
growing smaller and smaller.
I mean college basketball. I mean,
But you know what I mean?
I
Like
understand what you're. Yeah, I do understand what you mean.
the, and the concern is real because the last thing you want to become is FIU. The last thing you want to become is, you know, I'm just trying to think of like a Rice. I mean,
You know,
that's
you
the worst thing in the world you could become. But the best thing in the world you could become is a tremendous power like a Boise State, a JMU, an App State, a team that's people
well,
know and understand that they're about a winning culture. I know. We can bring it up in a little bit, but Colin, you talked about where we are, the proximity to DFW, the proximity to Houston, to Austin, all these hotbeds of talent in the state of Texas, which is probably the best producer of top end talent in football and really all sports combined, if you combine them all. But in football, Texas is Texas, and the recruiting that's huge. People understand what Sam Houston is. It's a very pretty campus. It's an attractive product. It's new. It's upcoming. People are going to want to come here.
and there's also that 10-year plan that Sam Houston has going, where they're going to make the camp, where they're going to try to make the campus more accessible, much more better. Um, like, and some new buildings coming, and there's, and especially athletics, and I mean that press box is a huge step. I'm curious to see what it's going to look like in over a year, because it's not going to be finished until before the 2026 season. The 2025 season, I don't want to get into talking too much into it now, especially since this season is not over yet. But it's going to be a really weird year, I will say, at this moment. But but anyway, back to our topic. Before we before we get to our next segment with Colton Foster, the sports editor of the Huntsville Item. He'll be talking with us in a little bit about this whole Keeler thing and the direction of Sam Houston football. The I people people kind of complain where Sam Houston is. Like, people complain about how can't very public opinions about how cheap it is. Sam Houston is, how this and how that, and but I will, and you kind of made this point already. We could be off a lot worse. We could be a Kennesaw State with what the heck's going on over there. I mean, they seem like they made a good hire over there. Albeit, I still don't agree with. I don't care who they, even if they hired like a Mac, like a Nick Saban or whatever. I still don't agree with what happened with Bohannon. That was unfair on his part. And we could be an FIU. We could be a UTEP. We could be a Nevada. We could be, anything else. Like, we could be a lot worse. We could still be an FCS right now if Bobby Williams did not accept that invitation, because Bobby said that he was approached, and I'm sure if he never did, we could be off a lot worse right now. Maybe, potentially, I don't know. We It's just where Sam Houston is right now. It is in a really good position. It's just going to come down to right now who's the next head coach.
Yeah, can you make the right head coaching? Can you get the current players to buy in and not leave?
That's also going to be
You know,
interesting.
I feel like the best way to do that is to hire someone internal. That way, you're not going to have to deal with the mass exodus of players. But then, there's also, the flip side of that is that, okay, if you're not going to bring from anyone external, it's going to be a little bit harder to get guys from other places around the country to come to Sam Houston if you don't get, someone that maybe has a little bit more stock. But then, you look at, you could go in so many different directions with this, because it's really a team with a lot of potential in a conference that's not, um, it's not a gauntlet, right? So I mean, you could really make the right hire, ride this momentum off a 9-3 season, and really get some buy-in to this program, and you could also hit the ground running, and kind of not go, or pick up where you left off 9-3, and try to dominate another year of CUSA football, right? And challenge for a championship game. So it'll be tough. It'll be tough, but there is a lot of upside to this job and a lot of upside to Sam Houston. And you're right, Colin. If we didn't make this move, where would we be right now? Without Coach Keeler, without a Hall of Fame coach, we would still. I don't even know if the WAC still exists in football. I mean, I really don't. Does it, Colin?
It's the United Athletic Conference. They combined with the ASUN and it's the ASUN and WAC combined.
Yeah. So well, yeah, we'd still be playing. I still like to play SFA, but we'd still be playing.
Well, SFA went back to the Southland, so it's kind of null and void at this point.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't even know who would we be playing. I don't know who's in the United Conference anymore. I have no idea. But that's why it's not very relevant anymore. I mean, you don't forget your roots, but
Yeah.
it's really outside of the Dakotas, Montanas,
The Idahos.
and part of the Southland. Yeah, Idaho's good. What do you have?
Well, it doesn't matter anymore because we're here. We're in this position right now. Well, we've dragged this on a little too long, but hey, there's just a lot to break down, really. Just again, just recap some notes. Brad Cornelson, the offensive coordinator, is the interim head coach, so he'll lead that. I thought it was going to be John Johnson because he was promoted to assistant head coach in the offseason, but offensive coordinators becoming the interim head coach is much more common than most people think, apparently. Jay Ducker again enters the transfer portal. We don't know any at this time at 1:13 p.m. Central Time. We don't know anyone else who's entering the portal as of now. Um, I don't have much more notes except the fact that we're now being more predicted to go to the New Orleans Bowl against Marshall, James Madison, Georgia Southern, just any of the Sun Belt teams you can think of that at our level this year. But we'll get more into that later. Right now, it's all about Keeler going to the Temple Owls. Let's go ahead and end this segment right here, and we are now going to transition into our conversation with Huntsville Item Sports editor Colton Foster and get his thoughts on the whole news and where he thinks things are going to go and what he has heard. So stick around just for a few seconds. We'll be right back. All right, joining us now. We've been wanting to get this guy on the pod. I mean, not really. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess he's an interesting guy. You can see him right there. It's the sports editor of the Huntsville Item, Colton Foster. Colton, thank you for joining us in such a crazy time. It's Bearcats coming off a victory against Liberty, falling short of a Conference USA championship berth, and now losing their head coach all within about 48, 72 hours. Jay Ducker just declared for the transfer portal a few hours ago. Just a lot going on, but appreciate you taking the time to hop on in the midst of this chaos, as we
No
all like
problem,
to say.
guys. Thanks for having me. It'd be fun to talk little Sam.
Yeah, so Colton, obviously the podcast came out with Bobby Williams and Jason Barfield on the BSN Extra, and they kind of talked about past couple of days. You were tweeting about it, but I just want to give you the chance and kind of give your thoughts on kind of what was said and where you think Sam could go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to wind up being very similar to the Chris Mudge hire on the basketball side last year. I think they're gonna, like Bobby said, they want to get somebody that knows the program, whether it's a former player, former coach, or both. But Sam's a unique position because it's a place that you can grow, and they've had several coaches come through. Dan Lannings of the world. Phil Longo came through here. Now he, was recently fired. I mean, there's just so many different coaches that have come through here. So it's such a great spot to kind of get into coaching and get in there. But, we've reached a point in time where what kind of, if you get a FBS coordinator, what's the pay scale going to kind of look like? Is it going to be a pay cut, a pay jump, anything like that? So I think, getting somebody in that knows the program and knows how the school operates is going to be key. And just keeping the culture intact because I forget the year, but it's, four coaches since what 1982 or 87 or something. That's not common. I mean, that's Pittsburgh Stillery, that's culture that lasts forever. And getting that to stay is going to be key for this team that really needs it in this transfer portal era. And not having that much NIL, it's not like you can just go out and pluck a quarterback that you want.
It's interesting because he was rumored to go, funnily enough, to another school with the mascot of the Owls in the same conference at Rice, and then they filled up that position a few days later. Then it's interesting. Do you think Keeler was being, you know, approached during the season, or was it just with Temple? Was just once the regular season was over, they immediately had conversations.
I mean, in a situation like that, he was probably approached once Temple, moved on or moved away from their coach at the time. But yeah, he's also been in talks. I mean, 2 years ago, Texas State, he was rumored to leave for that job. It's kind of been one of those things. And, whenever you had asked him in the press conference, what keeps him going, And his answer was, I promised Bobby Williams and Dr. Elisa White that I would get them through the transition. It felt like it ran its course. It felt like it was, pretty set that, he probably wasn't going to be back at Sam Houston next year. And he did what he promised. He got them bowl eligible and, 9-3 year after going 3-9. And, there's not much more you can ask for as a Sam fan or, working at Sam Houston State University.
Colton, obviously, in the podcast, Bobby Williams, athletic director, talked about filling the position um, as soon as possible. They want to do it before the bowl game. Do you think that's realistic? You think Sam finds their guy by, let's say, January 1st?
Yeah, I think it's realistic. Bobby made the point to say that, Jason had asked him what is step one, and he said step one is always in progress. And you have to in this day and age. Keeler could have left last year because somebody else wanted him for more money. You have to kind of always have a short list of names to go back to. I think it could be before the bowl game. Now, if you get to that Frisco Bowl, and I think that bowl is on like December 14th or
Yeah.
early December, I mean, that one gets kind of fuzzy because it's, I guess, 2 weeks out at this point. But if you get, any later than that, I assume it's no later than Christmas, though. He made a point to say he didn't want to wait as long for this one as they did for Keeler, and the human resources department is already working to help keep things moving along per se. And also, if Keeler had gone to him 2 weeks ago and said, "Hey, Temple is interested in me," now all of a sudden you have 2 extra weeks to kind of get those plans going. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I don't know, but if that is what the case was, now you have 2 extra weeks on top of that that nobody really knows about.
Colton Foster joining us here on CNBC Sports Talk. Should we expect a I wouldn't say exodus because that's kind of a
Turnover?
hyperbolic term. Yeah, should we see a turnover of players? If we are, is it going to be a big amount, small amount, moderate amount? Like, just kind of what do you think is going to happen with the roster?
I mean, this day and age, it's so hard to predict what's going to happen like that. I think if you do wind up hiring Skylar Cassidy and promote him from within, you probably lose a little less. But if you bring in somebody else and, he doesn't like somebody or they don't like him, all the student athletes now have a chance to just press a button, basically click a button, submit that they want to transfer out and can do it. So, I think it'll just be interesting to see, who they wind up hiring and kind of what happens. And, you know, what if they go to an FCS head coach? What kind of players is he going to want to bring? If he go to an FCS coordinator, what kind of players would he want to bring? I think there's a lot of what ifs to that question. But, I would assume a lot of people probably wind up putting their names in the portal. It'll be interesting to see who they can keep out of it once somebody can get in here and take back over this program.
You've mentioned Longo, Cassidy. Do you think they're you just talked about an FB or an FCS coach maybe that's in the running. Do you have any names? Do you think that are in the running for Bobby to fill this role? Outside of the Sam Houston family?
I truly think this hire is going to be somebody that's had some sort of connection to Sam Houston in the last however many years. Whether it is Skylar Cassidy getting the promotion, it would make him, I believe, the youngest FBS coach in FBS. Another name would be Matthew Prowledge. He is the Baylor defensive coordinator, but he's a Huntsville High School graduate. Came to Sam Houston. It would be his first head coaching job, but I guess you have to weigh the odds of, do you want to stay as a defensive coordinator at Baylor or take on the full responsibility at Sam Houston. I mean, we've seen Chip Kelly left UCLA to go be the OC at Ohio State. So in this day and age, you're not just the head coach anymore. You're a de facto general manager that's has to go out and get recruits and manage NIL and manage, peer before long with revenue sharing coming into the mix. There's so much more to manage just than the X's and O's on the field at this point. So I think it'll be really, really interesting to see kind of what the direction they go in with this hire.
Can we expect Sam Houston to up the pay raise? If you think, I think you said Keeler was getting paid 600. It was said that 675,000 a year. Keeler was getting paid. Do you expect it to? Do you expect them to exponentially raise the salary for being a coach at Sam Houston?
I think you have to, just in the day and age. I want to say it was bottom three in Conference USA, and it was above like, it was above Kennesaw State, and maybe Missouri State was on that list at this point. But yeah, you kind of have to, I would assume, bump the pay a little bit. This isn't FCS ball anymore. Now, how much would be the real question? I don't know if you have to go seven figures or just under, but you definitely have to get enough to get somebody away from the job they're at now. Whether that, being if they are a coordinator somewhere, a position coach somewhere else or anything like that. You got to entice it a little bit to get some people in.
Colton, Colin and I kind of played this game um, a little while ago, and we were talking about it. And said, from 1 out of 10, how attractive is Sam Houston to a a prospecting head coach?
I think it's absolutely gorgeous. They're coming off a 9-3 season. Now you can prove that you can have continued success in at the FBS level. It's one of those jobs that might not look like it's going to be the greatest, but it is. I mean, you're right here in Texas. You got Texas recruiting, and, some of the best high school recruiting in the nation. You can say you're in the footprint of Texas A&M, but so only so many kids can go to Texas A&M. Only so many kids can go to Texas. You can get that crowd of people who want to stay close to home, so mom and dad and sister, brother, aunt, uncle, cousin can come watch them play on a Saturday or in Sam's circumstances, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. But yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those jobs that probably is a little under the radar for a lot of people. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's one of the best jobs because, and you can use it as a stepping stone, or you can use it as Keeler's case, use it as a get right job, get back on your feet. He was coming off a year of not coaching and was on TV. Came to Sam, had him back in the FCS playoffs, 5 trips, one national championship. Now a bowl team. It's a job that really can, make you take that next step or help you get back on your feet and, get going. I mean, Willie Fritz left here for, what was it, Tulsa, and then went to Tulane, and now he's at the University of Houston. It's one of those jobs that, if you come in and have success, it's a great stepping stone and can get you everywhere. And even look at Oregon. Oregon's number one team in the nation. And he got his start, Dan Lanning. He was the defensive backs coach here under Casey Keeler.
Should we also expect a turnover when it comes to the staff? Should we expect staff to not just go with Keeler to Temple, but also to elsewhere?
Yeah, I would think so. I assume, you kind of have to look at the Jason Hooten situation from what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. Chris Mudge got the job, but if he wouldn't have, he would have been Hooten's number one assistant over at, in New Mexico. I don't know. You never really know who he's going to take. I mean, he had a great core here. I assume if Skylar Cassidy doesn't get any offers anywhere, I would assume he probably heads on. But I want to say somebody had said he might have interviewed for the North Texas defensive coordinator job. If he can get a different, defensive coordinator job in the state, you might as well do that. But I'd assume, there's probably a list of coaches that Keeler would take, and I'm sure there's a list that, probably stay here and kind of plead their case with the new coach or, have to move on themselves because, they don't want to have to play the waiting game.
Go ahead, Colin.
Oh, I thought I was fully expecting you about to ask a question. Just kind of in a in a way, just how important is this hire going to be? Because we talked about four coaches, only four coaches since 1982. That's really rare, like or maybe not rare, just very uncommon. and especially with the back-to-back hires that Bobby Williams has made with Willie Fritz and Casey Keeler. But it's different this go around because Sam Houston's at the highest level of college football in the FBS level. It's transfer portal, it's NIL, it's a whole bunch of things. Just kind of get how can you put it to how important this next hire is going to be when it comes to the future of Sam Houston football and athletics as a whole? Because football is king, and it's what really depending on how good your football program is, it also helps out the other programs in athletics.
Yeah, I mean, it's, outside of an athletic director, it's practically the, face of your athletic department. Um, so yeah, it's going to be an important hire. But like we were talking about earlier, it's kind of one of those sticky situations because if you make the right hire and they go 12 and 0 when you're competing to get into the, college football playoff at the end of the year, well, what happens when, UTSA needs a new coach or Texas Tech needs a new coach or, any of those, lower end kind of P4 schools need a coach or even a high end P4 school needs a coach and they say, well, this guy came to Sam Houston and now he's got these teams buzzing. So yeah, I think it's going to be an important hire, but also you got to make sure it's the right culture because you don't really want to have that carousel of coaches again. You don't want to have to keep hiring year in and year out because at that point you're never really going to have any stability, and at some point the culture takes a hit, and it's very good at Sam, and they treat everybody like family. So getting somebody that's going to be here for a few years, if not more, is probably going to be the biggest key to this hire to help keep the culture going and help keep putting the student athletes first in every which way possible.
One name I saw thrown out there on social media that's gotten some traction, Brian Bell. Obviously, an old Sam Houston guy, coached at the high school level, won a state championship. He's at Baylor. Now he's at Houston under Willie Fritz. Do you think there's a chance that maybe you see his name thrown out there as a possible candidate?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think there's so many names on the table right now. You spend the first week getting all the names and then kind of reduce it down a little bit. But yeah, I could see like a Brian Bell. It'll be interesting though, because Keeler was more of a defensive guy, and Sam's always been known as a defensive team. So it will be interesting to see if they do kind of make that shift into more of an offensive side of team. Getting into Brian Bell, who was a former quarterback here and was a China coached at China Springs, and I either won a state championship or was runner up there. I don't remember which one. And his brother Sean, coached and friends of mine in high school. So it's just that'd be one of those families that would continue the culture here at Sam, and it would give Brian a shot at being a head coach at the collegiate level, and because I think he's an offensive assistant down at U of H right now. But yeah, I mean that would be one of those names that I would look out for. Kind of, but I think it would ultimately depend on if he wants to be a head coach or not. At the end of the day.
So should we expect in a way the next head coach to be the signal caller because it sounds like or the play caller, excuse me, the because it sounds like with all the candidates that are being named, it sounds like these would be guys that would be calling the plays.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, there's no. I mean, Keeler was a defensive guy. He's been here 11 years. All 11 years, there's always been a defense to come down on or to rely on. But yeah, I mean, truthfully, I think it depends on what you can kind of get in. I mean, just because they're an offensive guy doesn't mean they're only going to focus on the offense at head coach rank. You know, and maybe getting an offensive guy won't be bad to kind of shake things up a little bit and get the offense going again. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of the names that have been thrown out have been offensive guys, but I mean, at the end of the day, feels like Sam is a place that relies on defense. So if a defensive guy comes in, I wouldn't be too surprised either.
Just to kind of end it off, Colton, Sam Houston just finished the regular season 9-3. They don't know exactly where they're gonna go bowling just yet, either up in Frisco, in Bayou City, New Orleans. maybe even the Bahamas. It seems like those are the three common ones that are being thrown out there. Most common as of recently, as of late, is New Orleans. Just you've covered this team for a couple of years, just the program as a whole for a couple of years. Just kind of what has it been like from your perspective, just as a writer, just seeing the transition and up until now.
It's been cool. And I think the real, where it'll kick in is kind of when the press box gets torn down and a new one starts going up. Because I started going to school at Sam in 2018, and I started kind of really working more so on the writing side in 2019. So I've kind of been there and, seen everything. But it's been so cool just to watch them, you know, get to where they are. And, last year was tough. You start 0 for 8. Everything seemed to be going against you when nothing would go your way. You go up by whatever it was against UTEP, and they come down and in 3 plays, they kick a field goal and you lose. And, it was just one of those where it felt like, I guess the term snake bitten would be kind of what you could use there. But to see those kind of things go the other way this year, and all off season, Keeler preached about, let's get those 5 wins off. Let's figure out a way to get those 5 plays because we lost 5 games on 5 plays. Just to be able to see them kind of actually do that and flip it, and get all those 1-score games. It's been so cool just to see, and to watch them be able to go bowling is so cool. And just the FCS playoffs were cool and all, but at the end of the day, people really care about bowl games, and and we've seen all the attention they've gotten after this move up, and they didn't, even get as much when they were, winning an FCS championship in the spring. So yeah, seeing just kind of how everything shifted and more lights are being drawn onto Sam has been pretty cool.
Which what's kind of your preference of a bowl game? Do you have one? Do you have one that you'd root for more than the others?
In New Orleans would be fun, but I mean, New Orleans or Frisco at the end of the day. I think being Sam's first bowl game ever, you want to get people in the seats that are wearing orange. So getting people to be able to drive to it. Now, I think the Frisco bowl game is on a Tuesday and the New Orleans bowl game is on a Thursday. So at the end of the day, does, how many people are going to be able to travel on a work day? But yeah, those would be my two preferences. I don't, the Bahamas would be cool, but it's such a haul when it's in January and kind of sandwiched in with the college football playoff. And, it'd be a cool trip, but, I'm just not sure how many people would be able to make it versus being able to jump in the car and drive, 4 hours to Dallas, or the 20 minutes if you're in Dallas, or, the other 4 hours to New Orleans. I think it'd be cool to kind of see them get in a regional game. Truthfully, if they could line up with JMU at the Superdome, I think that'd be the coolest, just given all the history those two teams have had.
Yeah, that's what Action Network predicted earlier today. And that'd be pretty. It seems like a lot of people were pretty on board with the New Orleans Bowl. It'd be I already got some people interacting with us on Sam Houston Sports Talk saying that they might just make the drive out there. So it'd be pretty cool to see. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you, Colton, for hopping on to talk some Sam Houston athletics.
Hey, no problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Well, that'll do it for us here. I'm Colin. That's Luke saying so long for now. And strap in, folks. It is going to be a chaotic next few weeks. As always, eat 'em up, cats.
You know, cats.